Wouldn't you feel foolish? You would have to change the whole channel name and everything. You'd start a new podcast.
Now we just do 2 podcasts.
Look at Brandon, doubled your business.
Now you're going to go from losing $10 a month to losing $20 a month.
That's exactly it.
You are listening to Season 3, Episode 9 of the Technical Difficulties Smart Home Podcast. Today we are joined by 2 special guests, Rohan and Phil from the Home Assistant Podcast. They're going to do their very best to convince me that Home Assistant is the path to home automation glory, and they're going to share some of the many things they have learned during their 8 years of podcasting together. That is so many years of podcasting. We're also going to learn a little bit about Australian culture and the history of Duck Duck Grey Duck. So please let me know in the comments below if you are on Team Grey Duck or Team Goose. You know which one is the proper answer there. As always, this podcast is brought to you by Zeus. Zeus makes innovative Z-Wave smart home products you can depend on. Switches, dimmers, smart plugs, sensors, relays. Zeus has everything you need to smarten up your home. Plus, every Zeus 700 and 800 series device comes with an extended 5-year warranty when you register your product. And don't forget to visit thesmartesthouse.com for their deal of the week. This week, they are offering $13 off the Zeus 800 series toggle dimmer switch. It's got all the fixings, including Z-Wave long range, 3- and 4-way capabilities, double tap scene control, and more. And if toggle switches aren't your thing, well, check back next week because there's always something new on sale. Remember, for the best deals on Zeus Z-Wave products, you'll find them at thesmartesthouse.com. And now, on with the show. We got a special treat here, you guys. First, Vince, introduce yourself to our friends as usual.
Hey, this is Vince. I'm happy to be here.
Brandon, are you also happy to be here?
You know, I'm always happy to be here, Pete.
Today we got 2 guests. Can you believe it? 2 guests. This is probably the greatest event in podcasting history. We have the hosts of the Home Assistant Podcast. Please welcome Rohan and Phil. Rohan, good to have you here. You are in Toronto. Is that correct?
I am, yeah, just east of Toronto.
All right. So are you excited to become our 51st state?
Oh, man, it's too soon, man, too soon.
Listen, Australia's next.
Don't worry, you'll get used to it. I know.
I thought Greenland was next.
Oh, that's right.
You're talking about red, white, and blue land. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Red, white, right. Oh my gosh, that is crazy. And Phil, you think Phil is in Australia? He thinks he's safe, but we'll get to Australia eventually. Don't worry about it.
I have nothing here that you guys want. Just leave us
That's
alone.
where we send our prisoners, right?
Kangaroos.
You know, like America's everywhere. There is like a secret spy base out in the middle of the desert. Maybe you can have that back. Like take that.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound so
it's
secret if you know about it.
I've seen like YouTube videos about it. I'm pretty sure it's not secret.
Yeah, no, they won't let you near it. They won't let you film it if you try.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
That'll put you on a list. Like if you try and get anywhere within a certain radius of it.
Yeah.
Simply just us talking about it on this podcast. We're on a list.
You guys host the Home Assistant Podcast, and yet we met you guys in Las Vegas. Again, you're Toronto. You're in Melbourne, Australia, right? Did I get it right?
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Everybody that can pronounce it correctly. Well done.
I'm a quick learner. But we met you guys in Australia, and interestingly, how long have you been doing the podcast?
In Vegas. You didn't meet us in Australia. I
Right.
wish.
I
I've
did
never
not.
been to Australia, but
Don't tell my wife I was actually in Australia those 3 days. It's a great time.
I think it's coming up to 8 years. 7.5 years?
something like that.
Years,
Yeah.
We-
I want to say we started in 2016, 15, something
17,
like
I believe it was.
that.
Wow.
17. Yeah, there you
So
go.
7-8 years you've been doing the podcast, and Vegas 2 months ago, or last month actually, was the first time you guys had ever met in person. Is that correct?
That is
Correct.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you still decided that this was okay to do the podcast after that. It wasn't like, ooh.
When you're in a long distance relationship for so long, you sort of get to know each other's quirks and you just deal with
It's
each
true.
person, right? Yeah.
I mean, they do say don't meet your heroes, but no, I'm kidding.
Did you have any Cheetos in bed by chance?
Jeez.
I bet Pete wishes he never would have met me in person.
In person, that first day was a struggle. And you're a great guy. But yeah, the first day I met Vince in person, he ate Cheetos in bed next to me, which is weird. And
That's
we don't.
hilarious.
All right, well,
that.
I feel like you need to preface
I
it
feel
with
like
an
there's a
actual
story
story.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, this is
Good Lord.
What's the deal here?
Well, okay. We went to a trade show and we
It
didn't
was
get enough.
Cedia.
It's
We did
Cedia.
Cedia
We went to
in
Cedia
Denver.
together, and
Okay.
the rooming situation didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out, and we wound up all in a room together, 3 of us in a room together, with very small, 2 small beds. And
Twin or
it was
like
like
full size beds, not even queens.
No.
And magically, Brandon was the one that got a bed by himself. Like, what in the hell?
literally I had been up for 37 straight hours, I think, at this point, right? 37 straight hours. And I go to the room ahead of them, and I'm like, I just go to bed, go to sleep, because I've been up for forever.
Yeah.
Vince comes in later. Again, we're sharing this tiny bed, and this is the first day I've ever met this dude. And he plops in and opens a bag of Cheetos while I'm trying to sleep, and just chomping.
Mind you,
Actually amazing.
me and Brandon were at like an event that was going on for Cedia, and we're drinking, and then came back to the room, and Pete's already sleeping. It wasn't even like 11 o'clock at night, and so here I am, a little bit had too much to drink, and so had a little snack and watched some TV to relax.
Grandpa's
I would've
in
done
bed,
the same
probably
thing.
can't
Oh yeah,
sleep
he also
right?
turned the TV on.
Yeah.
It was kind
Just
of
because
funny.
Pete is a party pooper. He
Again.
reminds me of my grandfather.
Again, I've been up
90-year-old
for
man.
37 straight hours. Okay, that's not an exaggeration. It was a bad.
I don't know,
Vodka
man.
Red Bulls and get over it. No, just kidding.
That's it. That's it.
Not only had been up for 37 straight hours, I had to listen to this guy from Alfred talk about a stupid lock to me for like an hour, and it was probably only 10 minutes. I don't know, but it felt like an hour, and I was
And then
was
you
done.
dissed him in the video.
Amazing.
I totally dissed him in the video.
Spoiler, I guess.
I know. I thought it was hilarious, but and I actually I was texting Pete earlier today. I'm like, a couple of the Alfred guys actually live in like a 5-minute radius of me, right? And yeah, apparently they do. And I was like, okay, so yeah, we should meet up. I'm not expecting a free lock or anything. I want to know what you guys are up
We
to.
got a pile of them right here. You want one? Might cost a lot to ship it to Canada now, though.
I hate smart locks. That's what I think I've come to realize. I have one. I despise them. Phil's heard this rant a couple of times, but my door is just crap, right?
I think the door is
And
the
my-
issue, not the smart lock is the issue.
Well, yes, that's part of the issue, right? So the problem with smart locks, I found is a lot of smart locks don't actually have the adjustable bore size, or the bore or whatever, the part that goes in the hole in the door. Right. So I have an older door, I guess, and it uses the older, smaller borehole size. So fine, the ones that do, that's my gripe with a lot of the smart locks. But then the gripe in my door is that my window is really close to the hole, so it doesn't. A lot of locks I can't put on. So the very first lock I bought was in August, stuck that on the back of my thing, and it's sitting on top of the window, so on top of the window frame. So it's just not spaced properly or something like that. So I think I need a full start. I need to get rid of my door, get a new door, get a proper door lock. And a lot of them, I find that, like, again, and you guys are in Minnesota, so you understand winter. Like when it gets really cold and stuff like that, ice, your house, your foundation starts to like move a little bit, right? Because it's called, I forget what the word is called, but like when basically the earth moves because of the freezing and thawing of the soil. And so because of that, now locks misalign, doors misalign, yada yada yada, and smart locks I find don't do great in that environment. That's my rant. That's why I hate all smart locks.
I wrote a song about how much I hate smart locks, so
I loved it.
I'm pretty excited. I don't think anyone's gonna care, but I enjoyed writing a song about how much I hate smart locks. So.
That's too
Now,
funny.
did you write the song or did ChatGPT write the song?
Okay, it was a group effort between me and ChatGPT writing the lyrics. And after I got the lyrics, that was fun. I went to Suno AI and just plugged them in there and said, I want a hillbilly bluegrass song with the banjo. And, I spit out a few versions. I'm like,
Here you go.
Great. This is fantastic. And
Here people are talking about like unfolding proteins with AI and all this stuff, and here's Pete making songs about how much he hates smart locks.
Yeah,
I think it's really good. I think I actually
Oh, that's great.
actually enjoyed the song. It was
you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I did too. I'm like, hey, this is good.
I
The
just-
song
pretty
might
neat,
have
yeah.
been better than the actual comparison, to be real.
Oh, it's 100% better. That's why I was very excited. I was way more excited about that than the actual 18 minutes of comparison video. So
The thing is, you got to get them to get that far, though. If 40% drop off beforehand, they're going to miss the gold.
I teased it at the beginning. I said, if you stick around to the end after my mental breakdown, you get to watch the smart home music video
Song.
premiere. So
Yeah.
it's pretty exciting, I think. think it's getting all the views, but we don't need to talk about me. We've got guests today. My goal today, I guess, is to tell you guys that you, as these Home Assistant podcast people, are destroying lives and breaking families apart by encouraging people to use Home Assistant. So you can try to justify Home Assistant being a legitimate smart home protocol, but we all know it is just a path to hell. And so defend
For once,
yourself.
it's 3 versus 2, which I appreciate.
Got an innocent bystander over here. Consider
I
me
guess.
Switzerland.
Oh, Brandon.
I think, Pete, you've put Home Assistant into this like land
Box.
of it's evil. It can't do it can do no good in your eyes, and I don't think that's the right place to put Home Assistant. Like you just said, it's breaking up families, it's breaking up homes. Well, the $25,000, $50,000 home automation system that's no longer supported is now also breaking up homes because it's the vendor's gone out of business or it's so financially expensive that it's caused divorces. Now there's a free thing over here that can do all that can do and so much better. So I don't know, Pete. Like,
I think those are creating jobs, right? Those systems go bad, so they have to get a new one, and then jobs are created, the economy's booming, and then we can take over Canada.
well, there is so much that Home Assistant is creating in an economy as well. Just so you know, there is like the whole ecosystem. There's a whole Works with Home Assistant program now.
Yeah.
Vendors are coming in. SB32, like SB Home, and from the is now owned by Nabukasa, and that is creating so many opportunities. Like how much stuff on AliExpress can you get now that are SB32 chip enabled? They're probably powered by SB Home or something that's powered by this open source project now.
And even if it's not, you can probably hack it to be.
True.
Right.
When did each of you guys start with a Home Assistant? And what made you get into it?
Yeah,
It's so funny. We asked this question on our podcast, but you would think I would have prepped for this at some point in the last, I don't know, 7 years, 8 years, whatever that we've done this. I don't know, 2016, I think, 2015 or 2016.
Yeah, about
I
that.
moved into this house in 2015, so probably 2016.
So
You
you
too,
basically immediately started a podcast right away, like, hey, this is it.
That's
Start a
it.
pod-
No. It's. I mean, I started on Smart Things. Decided I hated it. Like it was fine for just like basic, like, hey, your door is open, whatever. But to do any automations at the time, anything advanced, you needed to learn Groovy, and I didn't care to learn some random
It's still
offshoot of
terrible, by
JavaScript.
the way.
Yeah, I totally right. But so then I was like, okay, I got to get rid of this. How can I use all the sensors and stuff that I bought, and that's where Home Assistant came in for me.
I started when I was very young, still living with my parents. The first thing I did was I had X10, like some X10 smart modules next to my TV. And I had an IR blaster that would turn the lights on when I turn the TV on with a Harmony smart remote. And I thought that was so cool. Now when I just need to, whenever I move out, I will be able to, I'm going to do home automation. That's going to be my thing. Anyway, fast forward 10 years and I still haven't moved out of home. Eventually I got into my own place and I started going down the Philips Hue route. I got sucked into some random Kickstarter that, didn't really eventuate. So then I was like, all right, I need to take a look at, another smart home platform. I did a comparison of them all. I think OpenHab was big at the time. It probably still is big. It's the other open source project. I didn't want to go down a route of getting stuck into a proprietary system like SmartThings. Well, SmartThings wasn't even in Australia at that point. I wanted something open that wasn't going to charge me a monthly subscription fee or anything. And I compared OpenHab and Home Assistant. They were the two front runners, and OpenHab was based on Java, which, similar to Rohan, I had no interest in learning Java. YAML I could deal with, right? YAML's, I'm a programmer by trade, so YAML wasn't too hard for me. And then, I started doing some unboxings on YouTube, which, I thought, I'm buying this random stuff online. Let's just do an Australian version of an unboxing, right? Everything's North American focused or UK focused. Let's get some Aussie.
Same thing, but upside down.
I was going to say, do you open it the other way?
No, we have real electricity here, so we need to get things certified. I can't, put things in my own walls or run my own cables, because I could die. Not just get a little tingle on the fingers. So there was like a whole bit of, I thought we were missing out, right? So I thought I'd do that, but then I found editing videos really hard, and just time, right? Like, a life. I had, girlfriend, fiance, going on holidays and stuff. I started blogging. I thought, this is going to be easier than videos. So I started blogging, and then I was randomly on the Home Assistant community forums, just hanging out there, talking to people about Home Assistant. And Dan, who is one of the actual founder of the podcast, said, "Hey, I want to do a home assistant podcast. I've done a few podcasts before. I think home assistant would be good with the podcast, but I need some co-hosts." And so I said, "Yep, I'll come on board." Meanwhile, Rohan's doing whatever Canadians do. I don't know, shoveling snow or whatever, ice skating. He goes, "Yeah, cool,
That's
I've got
not a
nothing to do
Canadian.
with it."
You're talking to a bunch of guys from Minnesota, so they're also probably doing that. So
Oh, well, there you go.
it's
Well, you're
but
saying
yeah,
thank
I
you
mean,
for doing it, right? Like, isn't that the
there you
difference?
go.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I have some more, please? Which is the last like 3 weeks has just been hell.
Yeah.
Well, it's frozen over, but yeah, no, it's and same thing, right? It's we met on the community there, and then it was like 4 a.m. my time, and they're like, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I was like, "Okay." And then Phil, me, and Dan at the time jumped on, and we recorded audio, and at the time it was pretty much audio only. We're still pretty much audio first kind of thing, but we're pretty YouTube focused now too. So we do have video and stuff like that. But yeah, so at the time we didn't do any video or anything like that.
So when and why did you murder Dan?
He was from New Zealand. No, he was starting some other endeavors, and I think he just wanted to focus on that. And he asked us like, "Hey, do you guys want to keep this going or whatever?"
Does he still
And
use Home
we said, "Yeah."
Assistant?
Does he still use Home Assistant? I think so.
Yeah,
I don't know.
think so. But yeah, he
Yeah.
was starting his own business, and like, I don't know, like you've got to have a few creators on, right? Like editing, and that can take up a whole bunch of time, right? And this was, many moons ago before ChatGPT and AI tools that could cut down an episode, and before Descript, where you could, edit inline and all that. So,
Yeah.
editing. I remember I took over the editing, and it took me, I think for every hour of a recording, it would take me, like 2-3 hours to edit and publish it and do all the socials and stuff. So, yeah, when he's trying to start a business, it's just too much time for him. So then I said to Ryan, "Look, I've never done a podcast. Have you done a podcast?" And neither of us have done a podcast before, but we're like, "Stuff it, let's keep it going." And yeah, here we are. Like,
Did you just say stuff it? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, sorry. Is that
That's an Aussie thing.
is that an Aussie
Oh,
thing?
okay.
Oh,
All
sorry.
right.
Yeah,
Just making sure.
I guess it's like it. Like, sorry. There we go. Now you need to put the explicit sign on that. Yeah.
There you
Dang it, we're demonetized. God dang it. You just cost us $3.20.
I feel like when you're doing a Home Assistant podcast, like you have to. There's probably lots of preconceived notions about Home Assistant. Like, how are you guys overcoming like a lot of like people like Pete who like think that Home Assistant is the same way as it was 10 years ago?
Pete specifically, we make fun of. The rest of us, I think it's one of those things. Home Assistant has come a very, very long way, right? Like when I started, it was very manual, everything was done through YAML files and stuff like that. Building an automation was like, the logic was kind of like you really had to know what you're doing, otherwise it didn't work, and you tried it over and over and over again until you got it. But that's not the case anymore, right? They've had a massive focus on UI and UX, where things come in first, and again, it's a double-edged sword, right? So now you start pissing off the people that were very loyal to that way of doing it. So even something like moving, at the time, when you wanted to add an integration, you added it through YAML, and then that would load the respective libraries that needed to be loaded. What happened is now when you need to do that, you do that through the UI, saying, "Hey, I want to add, I don't know, a Zigbee device, or I want to add whatever that is." When you want to do it that way, great. You go in, you add, click, 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 and done. A lot of people also found that to be an issue because they're like, "Well, I use Git in the way I do things, and very programmatic ways." And so it's just a mindset shift, right? And you can't please everybody at some point, but I think getting it out to the masses, I think what they're doing now is a much better way to do it. And again, it's one of those things where it's as hard as you want to make it. It doesn't have to be difficult, but I think it can be, right? There are advanced things you can do in there, but you don't have to.
I think you also got to remember that there's new people coming on to Home Assistant all the time, right? Like, I guess if your stats are similar to ours, chances are if you're listening to this podcast, you're older than 35, you're a male, probably well educated. That demographic keeps coming up, right? Like, there's more 35-year-old males coming in every day, and they're looking for a new smart home system. And today, they're going to find Home Assistant as it is today, right? We even had someone on our show that was 14 using Home Assistant in his bedroom.
We literally had to ask permission to make sure he's allowed to be on a pod.
Yeah. So yeah, there will always be like new people coming in. I think for the old timers that are using Home Assistant, like Home Assistant has made it very clear, like they're going to support YAML, that their intention is not to remove it. I know I'm a stickler for YAML. I'm not moving away I'm trying not to use the UI too much, but I do get sucked in. But yeah, I think eventually the older crowd will just get drowned out by the newer kids that are using the new stuff anyway.
Yeah, I
So
mean, there's still a big commitment to. So Frank, who's one of the main devs, he is personally committed to keeping that alive, right? So he's kind of the CTO of Nabucus, I think is his title. I might be wrong. I'm not sure, but he leads the development effort for Home Assistant. And he's pretty. I mean, he's told us on the show on record saying that he wants to make sure that those people are also taken care of, the people that prefer YAML, the ones that want to do it that way. But again, with that said, there's still a couple of things where you might have to go in through the UI. So is it a make or break? Probably not. Is it a little more of an inconvenience if you want to do it that way? Sure.
okay, so it sounds like you're both on board with the idea of making it easier to use, even though you personally like the YAML. You're on board with the idea of making it easier to use and bring on new people.
100%.
Did it take you a while to get there, or have you always been on board with that plan?
I've always been on board. I've always advocated for it.
Yeah, it should always be the way. I don't. Well,
Yeah.
if you don't do that, then you're just keeping people out of your ecosystem and out of your product.
Well, and forget it from a product perspective. Selfishly, the more people that are on the platform, the more features, the more integrations, the more all of that stuff. So why would I not want that? Right?
Right.
It's only going to benefit me.
I totally agree with you on that. Like I used to work for Habitat, and yes, anytime you made a change, people get upset, but they didn't understand. You want more people using this. You don't want this to be a tiny exclusive club,
Right.
because then there's not the money to develop the things. There's not the people to develop the things, and you're always going to be stuck with the thing you have versus being able to expand to all sorts of new integrations and all that. So yeah, it's short-sighted thinking to just be like, all right, I like it. I don't want to change, even though I don't like Home Assistant. I don't want to change.
Just to be fair, Pete has Home Assistant, so
I do have the green. Yeah. So yeah, let me actually ask you about that. So for a long time, Home Assistant, it was a build your own system, right? You had to go out and find some sort of a board and all the radios you wanted and cobble it together like some sort of mad scientist. But now they offer about the yellow and the green, which are these standalone systems that you can sell. And the green, it's basically ready to go when you buy it, like any other hub that you would purchase. I'm assuming you guys still have your own builds. What would you recommend to people who want to get into Home Assistant, to go that direction, or do you think building your own is still the better way to go?
Really depends on who the person is. If the person's technical, I would say build your own. If they are not technical, maybe it's someone that just doesn't have time to go ahead and manage Home Assistant for that long. Home Assistant Green and Home Assistant Yellow are good options.
Okay.
I like how Pete thinks that like building it from scratch is like this exuberant process of putting it together.
And
It's
also
like
that it's
if
a
you
bad
could
thing.
install, like like back in the day when you you installed software on your computer, like
Yeah.
it's kind of like that.
It's
Pretty
Floppy
easy.
number 1, floppy number 2, floppy number 3.
Yeah.
No, you gotta put white gloves on and things. It's complicated.
What are you doing?
There's tiny screws. There's like
gotta
tiny
have-
screws and things, right? If you're gonna build your own computer,
Home Assistant or something else. You're not putting white gloves on to install Home Assistant. Is that where you've gone wrong, Pete?
maybe it is. Maybe it is. I just assume. Anytime you deal with electronics, you got to get all like
Anti-staticky.
anti-static. That's right.
Touch an SD card and flash it with HTML and then put it
like
in
you-
a file.
But
Like
that's the thing,
again,
you
you're
don't
just
need- you don't
putting
even need
files
to
on
just
an SD card if you use a
go
Raspberry
get
Pi.
a Raspberry. I was gonna say,
Gotta-
let's go get a
don't you have to,
Raspberry Pi.
There's no different soldering or anything you have to do to get this all put together.
No. And if you don't want to use
I think you're
Raspberry
doing it
Pi,
wrong.
you can
You're not going to shame me into thinking I'm an idiot. All right.
Up like a mini. You can pick up a mini PC and just
Yeah.
and install it like as a compartmental virtual machine. Like it's like literally just as simple as following like 3 or 4 steps. Like it's
Right.
no big deal.
Oh, it's,
Yeah.
okay. Listen, I actually did install it on before I got the green. I did install it on an old Mac that I have, and it was more than 3 or 4 steps. Just so you know, it was
How
not.
old is the Mac?
It's pretty old. It's like 10 years old at this point. It was old, but
Yeah.
I got it. I figured it out. I got it done. It was.
Yeah.
It was weird. I didn't like it. I like something I could plug in, and hey, there we go. We're good. Let's party. That's what I want to do.
The good thing about having got everything in a single unit is that you can get your upgrade your radio. Like if you decide next month that this Zigbee radio is not powerful enough to do my 100 devices that I've got. You can go out and build a better radio, right? And also, if the Zigbee chip fails in that device that's locked down, you then have to replace the whole device as opposed to just the Zigbee radio.
I think what Phil is trying to say is it's a drug, and as you get more into it, you want to like upgrade and you want to like it's that, right? It's almost like building like your gaming PC and stuff like that. You're like, hey, I got this thing. Oh, there's a newer graphics card out. Okay, I'm gonna rip mine out, build a new one, or sorry, install a new one, whatever that looks like.
I
Right?
think you need to go to a different analogy for Pete.
Right. I just buy the PS5. Like, hey, this thing works. I don't have to do anything.
Hey, I'm not saying you're wrong there, Pete. I'm just, but it's that same kind of methodology, right?
So having done this for quite a long time, have you been tempted by any of the other hubs that are out there? I'm guessing no. But like the Homey Pro, I love the Homey Pro, right? It's ease of use with the tiles, and you move them around, and it looks pretty, and it's easy and fun. Is that at all appealing to you?
No, I think for me personally, probably the closest is probably just like standard like HomeKit or something like that. I don't think I've ever cared to move off of it, but to be fair, I haven't actually given, again, Homey Pro as an example, a full proper look and a try, and maybe if I do, I'll love it. I don't know.
And wouldn't you feel foolish? You would have to change the whole channel name and everything. You'd start a new podcast.
That's why I can't. Well, listen, that's just, now we just do 2 podcasts.
Yeah, see? Look at Brandon, doubled your business.
Now you're going to go from losing $10 a month to losing $20 a month.
That's exactly it.
You guys were at CES. That's where we met, obviously. It was both your first time at CES?
That's right.
So
Yes.
Did you see anything there that really was worth your time? Was it exciting for you guys to be there? Is this going to make the greatest content ever for your podcast? What did you think of CES?
I don't think it's going to make the greatest content. Like, we've been slowly trying to get our CES content out on YouTube. So being a podcast, it sort of becomes hard to put audio content out when it's a very noisy environment. So we've been doing some videos. Even then, like, the videos are pretty noisy as well. But it was great to actually meet brands in person, meet other creators like yourselves in person, and also the Nabucasa team there, right? Like, it was the first time I got to meet Paulus, creator of Home Assistant, Frank, Miranda, Andy, a few other people from Nabucasa, all there in person, right? Usually I'm just a screen on the other side of the world at awkward times in the morning for me. So I think that was good, and the relationships there were really good to do. In terms of CES in general, I don't know about you guys, I was fascinated to see just the similar technology that was out. I know, like, the I think you talked about this with Ryan when he was on, about the robot vacuums all have arms now, or a few of them have got arms. I also noticed that everyone seemed to have the palm reading lock. That seemed to be really big, and everyone had that all at the same time, and they all seemed to be stroking that. So it was just interesting to see how some of the stuff you see online, like, the big announcements, aren't necessarily that big when you're there in person. Like, oh, actually, there was a few people that had the exact same thing there.
Yeah. What'd you think, Ron?
Very different. No, literally exactly the same. And I think Phil and I talked about this after too. And I think that's pretty much the conclusion we came to. But it was really cool meeting people, right? And I think, if it's up to me, definitely, I would love to go back again.
If we allow you in the country.
He'll be part of our country. He won't even need a passport.
Oh, that's right.
Next year. So, Phil, was this your first time in the United States?
No, I've been to America a few times now. I love Hawaii, one of my favorite places. Second time in Vegas, but yes, very much enjoyed it.
And it gets better every time, right? You're like, man, those Americans, they got it going on.
That's it.
That's got something going on.
So, are you a Simpsons fan, Phil?
Not really, no. We do get a lot of it here. I'm the sort of... Yeah, I hear a lot of people saying Simpsons references. I know the episode you're referring to, where that's the backyard. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is it all true? Is it very accurate? Have you played Knifey Spoony? Is that a thing?
Certainly not a thing. I was watching the episode while I put another shrimp on the Barbie. Right, like exact same thing.
I mean, we need to. I feel like Phil and I need to turn the tables a little bit and talk about Duck Duck Gray Duck.
Oh, listen.
The most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I don't know why he had to open this can of worms up to Pete. Like, now he's going to get on a soapbox.
I think we went over
unanimously the stupidest thing I think any of us had heard.
No,
that were
okay, we
in that room drinking.
We had to turn this into the Duck Duck Gray Duck podcast, just so I think it's the second time we brought this up. But yes, Duck Duck Gray Duck is the superior version of Duck Duck Goose, which is lame. It's just lame, right? It's too easy. Obviously, you go duck, 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 goose, and the goose you chase around. With duck, duck, gray duck, you go duck, 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 gray duck, you chase around. But you can also go blue duck, red duck. You don't run for red duck. You don't run for blue duck. You can even go green duck, right? Green duck. You fool the people into thinking you're saying gray duck, and then you say gray duck, and you chase around. You can mix it up. Listen, you can mix it up. Say silly duck, goofy duck.
Yeah, but you're still a duck.
Any adjective you can think of.
The
Yeah,
pro
but gray
move
ducks
is
are
to say
bad.
gray duck right away and then run because the first person never expects to be picked.
Yeah. Brandon
You
is
already got a head start. You're up. You're ready.
Brandon's been finding
up
loopholes in
scooters.
games since he was 3.
Brandon, when he played this game, the whole point of playing Duck Duck Gray Duck though is to be the center of attention for a little while, and Brandon doesn't want that at all. So he just wants to sit right back down. He doesn't.
Just here to win. You children.
I am surprised though. I'm surprised that Duck Duck Goose, the inferior version, has made its way all the way across the ocean to Australia. Like it's not that great of a game that you'd think. And maybe it didn't even. Maybe I'm just being America-centric here and thinking we started everything. Maybe it started somewhere else, and we. But I assume that it came from us.
America doesn't even believe in duck, duck, gray duck. It's just Minnesota. We literally researched this.
Yeah, I know. We're better. We're better. We are superior. But like, how did it get across? Like, what brought that game across to Australia? Or I don't know if it's in Asia, if it's in Africa. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't have a way to look this up.
They have the internet, Pete. Jeez. People travel. They have airplanes and boats too.
Maybe, but the game I think predates boats and planes.
And what I'm saying is, it's not a good enough game
Right.
that, like, it's not a good enough game where it's like, if I traveled to Africa and I was meeting some African friends, I'd be like, you guys, you got to play this thing that I've been playing over in the United States for so long.
It's the missionaries and the school teachers, I tell you.
If you believe AI, apparently Duck Duck Grey Duck started in Sweden and it's played in Minnesota.
We do
We
have a
even
lot of
have-
Swedes.
We even have vodka named after it. We literally have Grey Duck vodka. Like literally, we're embracing this full.
I feel like that's supposed to be like an
Wholeheartedly.
offshoot of Grey Goose, but maybe it's something from the game. I don't know.
It's-
It's better and cheaper than Grey Goose. But that is interesting. It started in Sweden though. But how did it get? So did it? Okay, again, I'm assuming Duck Duck Goose started in Minnesota, or it started in the United States. Somehow went across the ocean to Europe, got to Sweden. Sweden converted it, and then they brought it back to the United States. That's probably not the way it went. I'm guessing it started in Europe or somewhere over there, and they brought it with them.
It's a very American statement there.
I know. I even admitted it is a very American statement. But, soon the whole world will be America.
Good thing we don't really have a
man.
strong international following.
I wouldn't say we have a strong any following. Did you see my Home Assistant comparison video?
Big.
I did a comparison, the same exact automation with Habitat, Home Assistant, and the Homey Pro, right? Just to show here's how you do the exact same thing in all 3 systems. And the Habitat, I figured out pretty easy. The Homey Pro, figured out very easy. The Home Assistant, I couldn't figure out how to do it until I finally went to ChatGPT and made them write me some YAML code that worked. And then after that, I went back and I spent another day basically trying to figure out how to do it in the UI, and I did, but it was very convoluted. And so
When did you do this?
Well,
December?
ChatGPT was around, so
December, November, like it was only a few months ago.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, because the UI isn't that bad. YAML's terrible
thing
to
is,
figure out.
Home Assistant is open source, and that means documentation is open source. So if you have an idea on how we can improve the documentation, you may open a pull request on GitHub and make it clearer on how to make an automation.
Or just complain on the communities and someone else.
Rohan, yeah, there we go. That's the way. Yeah, complaining is more my style. And
Somebody
It
just
is.
describe it as your specialty, actually.
I would argue, I know
Forte.
you like the documentation, I'm sure is fantastic. I would argue that with proper design, documentation is unnecessary. Thoughts?
Sure, but I think again, it's catering to the advanced and the basic, right? So it's like you can't. It's hard to get both. When you make your UI too simple, then at that point you can't do your advanced things easily, right?
Basically, Pete, he's telling you can't have your cake and eat it too.
But it's so good. I like my cake. But Apple, that's
Yeah.
that's what Apple's been trying to do like for their whole existence, basically, right? Trying to achieve
Right.
that goal, and they've done it. And I know Apple obviously has a much larger budget. I'm guessing larger budget than say Home Assistant does. Probably.
Than a free open source tool. Yeah.
Right, then a free open source. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the free open source part is where they could, make
That's
a little.
right.
How do they make money? By the way, like what keeps them?
They have an organization. It's called Nabukasa. So basically, what it is you can do it entirely for free if you don't want to, but you can have a basically go in, get some credentials, $5 a month. Actually, it's a little more now, maybe
$7.50.
$6, $7.50 a month. And basically it'll give you remote access to your Home Assistant environment. You can do webhooks and stuff like that directly from there and whatever, right? So it gives you a bunch of those kind of features.
And
I think it's well worth
to
it.
Alexa.
And is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
real
you
American dollars or
have
is
to do
that
that.
loonies?
No, I think that's US dollars.
Okay.
Did you just look up loonies? By the way, did you
Oh,
have to
I knew
Google
that.
Okay.
But aren't you guys either getting a US dollar coin, or you guys had a dollar coin, or
Oh, we've had
I've
dollar.
always
They've
had
been
them for a
trying to
while.
get dollar
Tried
coins.
that. We moved off it.
They've been trying to do that for a long, long time.
really? Okay.
It's called. I think it was called the Sacagawea dollar. Sacagawea dollar. That's
Yeah,
what
they
it is.
tried.
Yeah,
They tried
that's
that.
what
There
it
was the
was.
Susan B. Anthony dollar. They had like states. I don't know. We've gone through many iterations trying to make this work, and people are no. I like my paper.
Yeah, you still
I'm not
read
changing.
paper. Like, what is that?
We're
it's
giving up
lighter.
a penny though. We won't have pennies soon.
You know what? That is one of the only things. Good for you guys. That is one of the only things I'm agreeing with. What's happening right now is that the push to get rid of the penny. I'm all on board. So
And can you start calling them by their denominations, not pennies and dimes and nickels? Just call them like 10 cents, 50 cents, 20 cents, whatever it is.
Pennies are a British thing. That's it's weird that the Americans kept it.
We still have the imperial system. I mean, come on.
Well, modified imperial
Yeah.
US gallon.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's better than us. We use both, right? And
Oh, really? That'd be weird.
legally we use metric, but then like I say I'm 6 feet. I don't say it in centimeters, right? But on my driver's license, it's in centimeters. I couldn't tell you what that is. My house is measured in square feet, not in square meters. But
Interesting.
officially, we use the metric system.
What was your very first smart home device for each of you? Phil, you can go first.
Yeah, it would be that X10. So it was a little X10 smart switch, right? And all it did was turn off and on. I had two lamps next to the TV, and I would hit a harmony routine, and they would turn off and on based on the IR blaster that was receiving the signals. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And that was the addiction. And then I started researching. That was back in the day. There was X10 modules that you could get to hook into like via USB, and then you'd need some fancy Windows application running 24/7.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my first little taste of the drug, I guess.
X10 for me too. They actually at the time, this is like, I think I was in high school, maybe even in like grade 8 or something like that, or grade 7, some of that. They did this thing where they'd be like, hey, you can order this and would just get units for free. I don't know how, but my dad found that somewhere. And so he's like, hey, this seems kind of cool. Let's try it out. And we did that just for a couple of like lights or whatever around the house. And then that started a whole like thing where my dad was like, hey, I'd love to see if we can just have like one satellite receiver downstairs and watch it upstairs as well. And then so it's like, we started getting into like RF based, like RCA, well, I don't know what it's called, wireless video essentially, right? And then with a base and a receiver and all that kind of stuff. And then it's like, I think from there it just kind of fueled on, and eventually it turned into this. And then when I got my own house, it was like, okay, like I can actually do some cool stuff. And at the time for me, I was traveling a ton, and so there was also a safety aspect to it, right? Like lived alone and whatever. So I was like, okay, I need to make sure that my house doesn't flood or something like that. Or if it does, I need to, at least I can call somebody and be like, hey, can you go like run into my house and turn off the water main or whatever that looked like. Right?
So we've established that since you're using Home Assistant, you must have a lot of frustrations. What have been your biggest frustrations other than just using Home Assistant?
I actually have none. No.
Good night, everybody.
No. I think it's just Mostly just the whole like right now my biggest frustration, and this is very fresh, is the IKEA bulbs. The Zigbee bulbs. I don't know if you've ever used them, but they have GU10 bulbs, and my range hood in my kitchen is the button for the light broke, so I'm just like, whatever. I'll just have it hard on now, and I just use two smart bulbs that are GU10. But the IKEA ones are crap, and they keep. This is I think my third set of them that I've had to replace in the last, I don't know, few years. 3, 4 years, whatever that is. Maybe that's good, but like now it's starting to get to the point where it's like flickering and whatever, and so it's that kind of crap, right? It's like I don't know. I feel like there's better quality stuff, and even with like open standards like Zigbee, for example, which is again, I know there's a consortium and all that stuff, but a lot of times open standard means open to interpretation. And that can sometimes be frustrating, right? When you're like, hey, this is a thing and it works this way, and you get it and it's not. Same thing, like I've been playing with Flick. Um, they gave us like a hub and some buttons and stuff like that. Yeah. So getting it into Home Assistant, there actually doesn't exist. There's a couple of ways around it, but it's like you can do it on MQTT and stuff like that, which is great. But at the same time, like the twist function. So Pete, you just held up the Flick twist.
Yep.
The twist part of the twist doesn't actually exist in the SDK. So there's actually no possible way to use that outside of the system. So it's like
Well-
it's dumb things like that.
So it's a button as a fidget spinner.
Correct. It
Combined.
actually, I will say it's very satisfying to turn. I've been playing with it on my desk. I actually just took it to my other room because I was playing with it and I walked with it. But yeah.
It's the light behind me.
But at that point, you're doing your automation sometimes in Flick, right? Which I'm like, I kind of want all of them in one place, like regardless of what platform I'm using. If I'm using Homey or if I'm using Home Assistant or whatever, I want to be able to do it all in Homey or Home Assistant or whatever. That's
Right.
the point of me getting that hub or platform.
Don't you think that's
So-
a little OCD? You can
No,
you
I
can
just
you
like
can
it's
get
just,
it in. You can get the Flick inside of Amazon, but as long as you have Amazon hooked up to your Home Assistant, you can use all the functionality the same, right?
right,
No, it
but
doesn't
why
work
doesn't
that
it
way.
just work? It might, but I think it's the other way. It's whatever. It's Flick acts as the hub, right? So and there's no way to move all of that data back and forth between the two systems, right? You can send stuff from Home Assistant to Flick. You can't do it the other way because again, like I said, that SDK straight up does not exist. So you can't even custom write something.
Huh. Okay. It works with my homie. That's all I know. It works with the homie.
Yeah.
It works with
Yeah,
with Alexa too.
It does work with Home Assistant if I expose everything through Matter and send it up that way. But again, I want the button in Home Assistant, not the other way.
And I think that's my technical difficulty or the frustration. I think with Home Assistant having so many protocols that you can have available to it, all of a sudden, you're running Z-Wave, you're running Zigbee, you're running Wi-Fi, you've got Matter. As soon as one of those protocols goes down, the whole smart home experience stops working, right? Like I've got Zigbee presence sensors, so when I walk into a room, they then can turn on Z-Wave downlights, right, or dimmers. But if either one of those networks is down, then the lights don't work, right? So then you've got multiple points of failure. And Matter was supposed to be the whole, and you guys have talked about it on your podcast heaps, right? Matter was supposed to be the savior to this problem, right? But it's just not there, and I can't see it ever being there at this stage.
I'll leave it with this: is there's an XKCD comic, which talks about standards and how standards proliferate, right? And it's like, hey, there's 14 computing standards. It's like, hey, we need to create a universal standard. Great, now there's 15 standards,
Yep.
right? And that's exactly what Matter is. That's the same problem we keep running into too.
I mean, Home Assistant community is massive, right? As far as people
Yeah.
adding, developing apps and things like that. And same with Habitat had a really big community, and there's a decent community for Homey Pro as well. And they're all creating these apps for free, basically, right? They're spending their free time. And most of these people that are they're developing these free integrations and apps. Their day job is also to develop integrations and apps. To me, I would think if I did that all day long, I wouldn't want to come home and then continue to do that for free. So good for these guys for doing it. I would like if you were like a beekeeper by day, maybe coming home and like writing apps would be like something for fun. But like if
And
I
not
did
to
that
say
for
that
work,
there aren't, right? There's actually a lot of, you'd be surprised at how many community members actually don't do this at all. And they come in and they're like, hey, I enjoy coding, I learned it, and I want to practice on my free time, whatever. Let me, and I have this case, for example, I use the Flick example I was using earlier. It lacks this feature, and let's say for whatever reason it's now exposed. Great, let me try my hand at building it out and doing that, right? Now, sometimes people get discouraged because Home Assistant does have very stringent standards that you have to adhere to for the way you write your code. But they give you feedback and they'll say, hey, this is why we rejected it. Fix it and push it up again, and we'll review it again, and hopefully we'll pull it through, right? So there are, I mean, we've talked to people that, so we had somebody on our podcast, for example, that I believe he was a lawyer, and he builds stuff on the side.
What have been some of the most interesting things you've learned or explored on your podcast?
Interesting one was someone that was, I don't think he'd implemented it yet, but he'd sort of talked about, so he had cats in his house, and if he had people over using his toilet, he didn't want them to leave the toilet seat up and then the cat get in the toilet and get stuck in the toilet. I think he was going to potentially lock the door. So you actually would be trapped in the door, in the bathroom until you put the toilet seat down. Or there was,
Doesn't sound legal.
It's like an escape
But I like-
room.
yeah, and if you
Let the
tried to
trigger out,
open
you
the
have to
door,
put the seat
like,
down.
yeah, there would be an announcement saying, "Hey, please close the lid, and I'll let you out of the door, or I'll let you out of the bathroom." Essentially. So that was cool. I don't think he went that far, but I think there was at least the announcement bit saying, "Hey, can you please shut the lid on the toilet so my cat doesn't die?" Essentially, we had Benjamin on. I think it was June last year, and he's actually started using AI and Home Assistant to like automate his chores around the house. He would just like have like a whole bunch of chores that your maintenance items need to be done, pump them up to like a to-do list through Home Assistant, and then get like ChatGPT or whatever to prioritize what needs to be done. Same with like shopping. Yeah, like cool things like that, right?
By the way, you know the easiest way to close your toilet lid is just get a smart bidet toilet. They open and close automatically. Just so you know.
We haven't had bidet talk for a few episodes.
I know.
Good. Thanks
No-
for bringing
no
that in,
dirty
Vince.
Toilet talk.
For me, it's definitely the episodes that have to do with like accessibility and stuff like that, right? Because at least for a lot of us, we don't think about like, hey, I mean, there's cool like, hey, I've got this lighting situation or I've got whatever, but then there's a lot of times it's like, hey, we've had a few folks on. One was severely visually impaired, like he was just, I think, fully blind. I think he said that he basically can see like there's light or no light, if I'm not mistaken, and how home automation kind of helps him, right? And how it kind of changes his life and helps him just basically. I'm not going to say get over the impairment because you're not getting over that, but more or less aid him to say, okay, you know what, like let's actually make sure, like I don't know if he's having a guest over or something like that. Hey, turn on the lights. Okay, great, because a lot of times I mean, it's not something you use, right? Or even if you use it, it's maybe out of reach, or maybe you don't know where it is, or those kind of things. We've had someone who was a quadriplegic on, and different things that you don't think about. And Brandon, I know you do a lot of real estate videos and stuff like that, right? And when you talk about that, it's like, hey, great, light switches are at this level. Well, when you're in a wheelchair all day, every day, they actually need to be a lot lower. And it's that kind of thing, right? So it's like, okay, well, I could pay an electrician to rip out my entire electrical system in my house to lower everything and to do all that, or I can make it smart and just say, hey, you know, whatever voice assistant, turn it on, turn it off, do those kind of things, right? um, and or both, right? Maybe it's bring it down and do that because again, you might not have use of your arms, for example.
And
So
also, is
it's
there
that
mail at the
kind
end of the
stuff.
driveway, right? Like if there's
Right.
mail at the end of the driveway, tell me so then I can go down and get it. Otherwise, I don't want to have to lug my wheelchair down the driveway for there to be no mail in the mailbox.
I
Yeah.
don't have a wheelchair, but I would also like that to know
Yeah.
before I walk down the
Yeah.
driveway to get the mail.
Yeah, I mean, right, but it's a lot of stuff that like you don't even realize, you don't think about, right? And a lot of times it's like, okay, let me actually do that. And there was somebody else we had on who, again, his wife lives with autism, right? And they, you know, for her, it's a lot of times it's like sounds or this or that, like that trigger her and kind of set her off. And in that sense, it's like, okay, well, let me work with automation to basically do things to calm her down, right? Or to bring her back down and so that she's not in that state. So it is very I love those kind of things. It's not just like a feel good thing, but it's also like a, hey, I've actually learned something out of this, and there's actually a lot of design that's involved in this, because that's not something I would ever consider not having that thing, because I just don't know, right? So
Yeah, that's actually very cool, and I'm gonna give credit to the owner of Habitat, who we all know I've had my differences with, but he did make it a point with Habitat to make sure it was always working for the visually impaired, because he thought that was really important,
Right.
and it is. So I think that's a really cool thing
Yeah.
that people are doing that. So, hey guys, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Do you want to tell our listeners where they can find you and your stuff?
Yeah, we're on YouTube. We're on all the podcast apps. Home Assistant Podcast. Get our website, homeassistant.fm. We're there. We're on all the socials as well. We're in the Home Assistant community Discord as well. So if you want to ask us a question, we're always listening there too.
Great. So we'll put that in the description. Thank you for joining us, Brandon, Vince. Thanks as always for being on the show. Thank you to Zeus for sponsoring, and thanks for watching or listening or however you're getting this episode. So please give us a like and subscribe, and we will see y'all next time.
It
Thanks.
started
Cheers.
with a simple plan, a curious review. 16 locks upon my door, each one fresh and new. Different brands, different claims, the latest, greatest tech. But as the days kept dragging on, they blurred into a spec. First one said it's lightning fast, took a minute just to sync. Second one had military but felt like brittle zinc. Third one's app was feature-packed, it crashed at every turn. By the time I hit the fourth, I had nothing left to learn. 16 locks, all the same. 1,000 settings, different names. Some had touch screens, some had keys, all unlocked so easily. What have I done? Where did I go wrong? This was supposed to be fun, but it's gone on too long. Fifth lock swore it read my palm, spoiler it did not. Sixth one had a magic mode, but still the thing just fought. Seventh one was sleek and smooth, but still it beeped too loud. Eighth one had a hidden flaw, it locked me out my house. I used to care, I used to try, but now my patience run bone dry. Every lock, the same old tale, just different ways to slightly fail. Darteth one, 10th one down the list, my eyes were growing dim. By number 12 I couldn't tell where one lock stopped, next begin. By 15 I had lost the will to test or even think, and when I reached the final one I just stood and stared and blinked. 16 locks, all the same, 1,000 settings, different names. Some had touch screens, some had keys, all unlocked so easily. What have I done? Where did I go wrong? This was supposed to be fun, but it's gone on too long. Now my door is full of holes, my soul is full of doubt. 16 locks have drained my mind, I wish I'd sat this out. Maybe next time I'll review chairs or something with more flair, because 16 locks have taught me well, I just don't really care.